Okay, welcome back to the Strong Opinion Hibs podcast. It's Calvin this week, joined by Jack and Charlie. Three of us back again. How are you two lads?
I'm good. Obviously, I think, it's been a while since we've recorded. Obviously, life's got in the way a bit. I just started a new job. Well, it's been about a month now at Trip.com as a German-speaking customer service agent. It's been really, really good. I think really nice place to work, great people in the office. I think I've met a lot of new people, made new friends, which is good.
Good.
And it's a good job. It's challenging at times, but it's also good to be using my language and getting to grow my skills and everything. And I think it's been good to the mental health as well. It'll get me out of the house and actually doing something in a day. So yeah, it's been really, really good to start a new job, and I think a big step in my life. So yeah, it's been a sort of a good month for me and a good wee period in my life since we've last been all together and recording.
So basically, when we've not been talking and hanging out together, you've been getting on great in life.
Well,
seems like what you're saying. Looking handsome as ever, well groomed and in the corner there. How are you?
I know, bad mate. I'm all right. I can't wait till the season starts now.
Good. I am all right as well. Obviously, I've been away on holiday in that age, so I've not really before my holiday. I was caught up with a lot of work in that age, so used to have ran the podcast and absolutely smashed it, which was great. It was doing really, really good. So it was good just listening as a fan for a while. But Charlie, you've probably been the biggest Hibs fan of the three of us this year, mate. I've not been keeping up to date as much as I probably should have or would have liked to. I've been a wee bit disconnected with it recently, but mate, you've been at every single game, eh? I think you actually been camping outside the stadium. Let us ken how you think the main pre-seasons went, mate. Talk to us about the games you've been to, players that have impressed you.
I've been to all 5 so far. Obviously, Clyde was a good game. Me and Jack were both there. It was at the Falkirk game. Wasn't as good. Was at Bonnie Rig Cup. That was decent. Obviously, Morton on midweek was not great at all. And then was there today against Norwich. We played all right. Nice to see the development team get around the second half. But it's been an all right pre-season, mate. I'm quietly confident for the season after today anyway. I wasn't after Wednesday, but no, I think players that have stood out for me. I think Rocky, straight off the bat, I'll say Rocky's been class pre-season. A lot of fans will probably be biting their tongue now about Rocky. I think he's been better than Porteous, which is good because Porteous looks like he doesn't want to be here anymore. So
do you think so? Why do you think that is?
Just his attitude on the pitch, mate. He doesn't look interested anymore, which is a shame. But he's obviously holding out for a move because he's not signed that contract yet. I think Melkerson's looked good as well. Playing out a bit more wide now. But probably say they two are the ones that have stood out most. I think Henderson's coming onto a game. I think Doyle Hayes is looking better as well, the games he's played as well. So
really?
I would say those 4 that I've mentioned.
Next one. What do you think it is about Rocky that sort of still making him a scapegoat? His all-round play's been better.
I think his all-round play's been better, mate. I think he's looking more calm on the ball. He's looking to bring the ball out from the back. I think he still needs to work on his heading ability. I think if he can get that in check, he'll not be at Hibs, because I think if he can head the ball, he's an all-round very good defender. So no, I think he's looking a wee bit better than he was. He was the scapegoat at the end of the season, and rightly so. I don't think he was playing well at all. But no, I think the first 5 games, first 4 games plus even the 3 friendlies with Fatties look good. So I'm hoping he's going to be a big player for us this season.
Right then, talk to us about that League Cup exit.
We should never really be in that position, should we? We should have topped the group. The Falkirk game, it was just a typical game where a team camps in the box and we can't break it down.
Right.
And we've seen that last season, a few games where we can't break teams down when they sit in their box. And it was the same there. And Morton, the administrative error aside, we just didn't look like we could have got a winner when we equalised. I thought I couldn't see the goal coming, to be honest, but good play for Bojang to obviously set Henderson up for the goal. But it was just really disappointing, wasn't it? I think we should never really be in a position where we're worrying about we might go out the tournament because we got to the final last year, semi-final the year before. I think this is the first time since Ron Gordon's taken over that we've left any competition before Hampden. So it's really disappointing. But it is what it is, and we need to get past it quickly because the big games start coming from next Saturday. So it's not one we can dwell on for too long.
Absolutely, and go on then, Jack. I was just about to ask you what players have sort of stood out to you this pre-season as well, and what you thought of the games, because you've both seen much more Hibs than I have.
Sorry, I was ahead of the curve there. No, but I think first of all the 2 pre-season games in Portugal very positive. For me, okay, they're against lower league English sides, but I thought I watched the highlights, played some good stuff. I think we were looking at to be in a good place coming into the League Cup group stage. Of course, got off to that brilliant start against Clyde. I thought that was when the Clyde game, I think, was sort of a false dawn, if you like, because I think we played some really good stuff in the Clyde game. Our pressing game was excellent, and I think it was honestly. And okay, the Clyde keeper was obese and he was struggling a bit in the heat, but we did really well against Clyde. And my attitude to it is you can only beat what's put in front of you. And I think we really just put Clyde to the sword, and that's what we should be doing against these League One teams. Really put Clyde to the sword, played some excellent stuff. We were a joy to watch. Dropped off a bit in the second half against Clyde, and I think that was maybe a bit of a warning sign of what was to come. And then obviously going into the game against Falkirk, I think historically for us, obviously Falkirk's never been an easy place to go. We've got some very good memories out there, but I think you're playing a team that's 2 divisions below you. You should be beating them, and there's no excuse for that. And I think okay, the team selection did let us down a bit. I think if we'd played a stronger team, would we be coming away with 3 points for Falkirk? Probably, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what team you're putting out. And I'm not saying this to disrespect Falkirk. I think Falkirk were well drilled, well organised, and in the end they did deserve to win. I think because at the end of the day we didn't put the ball in the back of the net, we didn't break them down, and that's what you need to do. So, but I think we should be going out there and we should be taking all 3 points. Beat Bonnyrigg. Okay, Bonnyrigg are newly promoted to the 5th to the 4th tier. That's expected. Then we struggle against Morton, and I think you look at it like that. Morton came with a game plan and executed it, and we struggled against that. And then that admin error. Now, what I've got to say about the admin error is I'm not going to go too much into it because I think it's been done to death. But we should have never been in the position where that Morton game mattered. It's as simple as that. We should have never been in a position where that Morton game meant anything. So even if we had given the 3-0 loss against us, we would have still been getting through. It's as simple as that, I think. Although maybe if we'd been in the position of getting through, the SFA might have taken more punitive action. I don't know, but I think the admin error was we're a professional football club. There's East of Scotland sides that down in the 6th and 7th tier that won't make mistakes like that. I worked with a 3rd tier women's side where there was only 4 of us in the backroom team. The 2 media guys and Kenny and Willie, and we knew when players were suspended and not. So you're telling me a big Premiership club like Hibs didn't ken that a player was suspended? I don't buy that at all. I think whoever's made that mistake, mistakes happen, but I think they should be getting a talking to, because that's cost the club money. That's cost us a competition that we should be very much in to win. But like I said, we shouldn't have been in the position that Morton game even mattered. We should have. So our direct rivals for Europe this season, right? Because I'd like to see us challenge Europe. Hearts, Dundee United, Motherwell. You tell me if you put them in that group, they'd struggle like that. Nah. Dundee United, Motherwell, Hearts top that group with 4 wins out of 4 every day. So I am very disappointed. And normally I don't talk like this. I think people know that I try and see the sort of more positive side of things, but I don't think there is a positive side. We drew because, we then got given a 3-0 loss against us because of silly admin error, but we drew against a bottom half championship team. We got beat by a Falkirk side who have been in the doldrums for several years, and the only teams we beat were both part-time teams. We beat Clyde.
I was just going to interrupt you, Jack, just quickly, just to make a point. See, the two of you said that you were quite disappointed with the team. You think we could have put a stronger team out against Falkirk. I've got the team up here. You've got Dabrowski in goals, a back 4 of Stevenson, McClelland, Bashiri and Miller. Midfield 3, Doyle, Hayes, Newell and Campbell, which was primarily our midfield 3 last year. And then McGeady, Doidge and Hauger up front. I mean, as a forward 3, how do you really think that's not a very strong team?
Would have played Marshall over Dabrowski.
Aye.
Definitely.
And I don't know why Porteous never played that game. I'd have played Porteous and Rocky. But other than that, maybe play Kenna, but I'm glad Lee Johnson swapped at half time in that game. Like, he obviously isn't a manager that isn't scared to be like, right, you're playing rubbish, you're coming off. Like, he hooked McGeady, and for my money, I would never hook McGeady off a team. Actually, since the 2 games after that, he's been hopeless, and he came off injured today. So, but like that, you can't really make that team much stronger other than the changes I've said. But like, it's worrying if that team can't break down Falkirk.
Yeah, I've got to agree with that. I think, yes, what my sort of final thoughts in the League Cup group stage is, it's disappointing. It's a competition we should be in to win. You know, it's a cup that the Old Firm don't really care about. OK, Celtic and Rangers winning. It's the one that I think I've always noticed that when the title race is tight, the Old Firm tend to just sort of not give the League Cup that much attention. So if it gets to that stage in the season and the title race is tight, you see the Old Firm begin to drop up. Like we've seen it in the COVID season. You know, like Celtic and Rangers both went out the League Cup sort of by their standards in the early stages. So come this year, she'll be always in to win. And Ron Gordon's for quite a long time now talked about he wants to win a cup. Well, that's the I think that's the I think out of the two of them, it's the one that we've sort of got a better track record in. Obviously, it took us 114 years between our 2 Scottish Cups. So I think the League Cup, you know, it's one that we should be challenging to win. So yeah, it's disappointing, but like Charlie said, you know, we've got a very tricky start in the Premiership, so we've got to sort of put this behind us and hit the ground running in the league and just full focus on that now. But I think players that stood out to me, Bojang, I've liked the look of Bojang. He's looked very good in the games that he's played. I think especially Morton, when he came on, I think Bojang actually changed the game a bit. Set up Henderson well, and then he was unlucky. I think brilliant ball into the box. And if Schwalke, the Morton keeper, hadn't been wise to it, Bojang was having that in the back of the net. He was up like a salmon for it. So I think Bojang's looked good. Henderson's looked good for me. I think Henderson, I think we're going to see him come good this season. Thought Rocky was one of our better players against Morton, to be honest. Doing well at the back, and I think Kenny's looked good. He's got a misplaced pass in him here and there, but I think he's a young lad. That's going to I think we'll see that maybe coming away from him maybe when he's developing his game a bit more. So those are the players that primarily impressed me. Some of the development lads, you know, the likes of Del Ferry, I heard did quite well today. So, you know, I think that's all very good sign. I think Dylan Tate, he's impressed me. I think I want to see more of Dylan Tate this season. I think the lads got something to offer to the team. So I think all in all, those are the players that have impressed me. I think the Falkirk game proved that midfield 3 doesn't work.
Or last season.
Oh yeah, well, I think Falkirk game was the final sort of confirmation of that, to be honest. But you know, Lee Johnson was having to work with what he had then. But I think the thing is, yeah, for me, the midfield, if you put Kenna in there, for any one of those midfield 3, then it becomes better, I think, to be honest. So I think, yeah, okay, it's disappointing we left the League Cup. I think there's some good signs, there's some bad signs. But all in all, I think pre-seasons, if I was giving it a grade in terms of like a school, I put it in as a C-, to be honest. You know, had some good points, had some bad points, middle of the road, average. Going at the League Cups, why we get the minus in there, to be honest. But yeah, all in all, I'm just really disappointed with the League Cup exit though. But like I said, we can't focus on it too much because we've got a tricky start to the league campaign, and that's where all the focus has got to be. I think the big thing for us is we've got to qualify for Europe, because look at Scotland's places now. You know what Scotland's getting in European football. We've got a big chance. You come 3rd or 4th, you've got a big chance of group stage football. So, and that the money that brings is huge. You know, it's astronomical amounts of money. So we need to be in there and competing for that.
So coming on to sort of looking towards next game, we'll probably do a more in-depth season preview in the next coming days or whatever. But I was going to say to you, you seem to be praising quite a lot of the players, actually, just sitting back listening to you, going through number of the defenders, number of the midfielders, strikers. Are you happy with the current squad? Do you think that this current squad is capable of finishing 3rd or 4th, or even sort of 5th, when you compare it to the likes of perhaps maybe a Dundee United who have managed to keep a hold of that boy Levitt. They've signed Stephen Fletcher to strengthen as well. Aberdeen have signed a number of players. I mean, obviously Hearts have signed Alan Forrest and Shanklin, players like that. I know you don't really rate them, but do you think our transfer market has been good enough to compete in the top half of the table? Come to you, Chaz.
I think we've definitely got a top 6 squad. I think we still need a couple of additions. We still need a centre half. I think we still need either a striker or a winger. But I think looking at the players that are coming back, so like you've got Hanlon that'll come back to add that experience at the back. You've got McGuinness still to come back from injury, hopefully. Nisbet's
due back in November, I think.
Mitchell's back soon. Try to think who else is out injured.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's a few players out, and we've still got Yuan to get his work permit, Cabraja to get his work permit. So, no, I think we've got a top 6 squad. I'm not entirely convinced where we'll finish this season. It's going to be hard to predict when we do the season review. I think 10 signings is good. I think that's probably what we needed. I'm glad we've spent some money on some of them as well. But it's hard to give it. It's hard to say if I'm happy with it or not, because I'm not entirely convinced that the signings that we've made are actually going to improve the squad. If you know what I mean, I think we've got good.
It's more of a like for like.
I'm not sure we've got entirely a starting 11 replacements yet, so it'll be interesting to see who. I think Lee Johnson and Ron both have said in recent days that they still want at least 2 more. So it'll be interesting to see who they are and how much we're going to spend on them. Because I think, you know, the talk is that Ron wants to spend $1 million plus on a player. So, like, we'll see if that happens. Like, it has to be a good player. You know, we're not going to spend £1 million on a dud. You know, so we'll sign something good. So
that's something you've been campaigning for ages as well, for Hibs to spend £1 million.
We need to break our transfer record at some point. Like $775,000 in modern age is nothing. So we need to break it. But I think, you know, I think we've got a top 6 squad, mate. I'm not sure we'll finish higher than 5th, to be honest. But obviously time will tell. But we'll do when I give my proper predictions, I'll be able to expand a wee bit more.
And Jack, are you happy with the transfer window so far?
I mean, if you look at it, we've been one of the busiest teams in Scotland in the transfer market. I mean, some of the signings have been good. I think some of the signings have been exciting, like Jair, for example, Tavares, Ewan. I think, you know, he's an exciting signing for me. Some of them, obviously, I think Ruben McAllister, time will tell with that one. I think he's a good young prospect, but in my mind, you need players that are ready now.
As he first team, though, that's the thing.
Yeah, I think, definitely that was my sort of issue. That one. Cabraja, I think that's a good one. You know, he's done it at the sort of top level in Croatia, you know, and he's played for French Varos as well, so he's used to playing for green teams in capital cities. So but I think that's the one I was going to say, obviously, and here's me going to be a bit of a football hipster coming out again. That I think Cabraja did quite well for French Varos, and they are a team with a lot of expectations in Hungary, big expectations. They're one of the biggest sides in the country. So if he's used to handling that pressure and, you know, at a club that there's big expectation, I think he'll do it. Or he'll do it fine here in Scotland. I think, you know, Ferencváros and Hibs, I think, are very similar in terms of their size within. So Ferencváros is equivalent to us in Hungary, I'd say. Maybe just slightly a bigger club in terms of, I'd say they're sort of in the middle between like us and Celtic in terms of like their stature, if you see what I mean, within Hungary. So he's used to doing it. And of course, Dinamo Zagreb, biggest club in Croatia. So I think he's used to doing it at big clubs and he knows what the expectations are. And you got to remember, Rangers were interested in him not that long ago as well. So it's not like he's pants. So I think I'm very excited about Cabraja. I think out of all of them, Cabraja is the most exciting one for me. Bojang's looked good. So I think, to me, we're a centre half and a central midfielder off having a squad that would be able to be up there competing. I think I agree with Charlie, we're top 6. We've got a top 6 squad. I don't quite agree with Ron's assessment of us having like a top 4. I think we're sort of sitting 5th or 6th right now. We're getting a centre half, we're getting a central midfielder, maybe a few more reinforcements here and there just to have a bit of depth. Then, yeah, we're challenging for top 4. But for now, with the squad we've got, I think we're sitting 5th or 6th.
So, is there anybody, just to sort of wrap up the transfers for the men's team, is there anybody currently in the squad that you're surprised sort of has survived that sort of Maloney and Jack Ross sort of era? Is there anyone from the team from last season that's still there that surprised you that you think could have potentially moved on?
Christian Doidge.
I think so.
He never meant any of his goals against Clyde. I think I've seen a lot of people tweeting, "Oh, he's back to his best." Like, nah, he's slower than a week in the jail. You could see that against Morton on Wednesday night, and especially today against Norwich. He's very, very slow, and I don't think the way that Johnson wants to play is going to benefit that. I think he's a good fox in the box striker, but we're not a team that plays fox in the box at the best of times. Like, we're a fast team when we get breaking, and Doidge isn't up to that speed. Like, Doidge is probably one of them. Maybe Campbell as well, but Campbell played left back. First half of the game was really good. I think, obviously going back to his juniors where he played defensively, I think that might be someone we see play at left back maybe once or twice this season if we have an injury crisis. But no, I think just maybe Doidge. I can't think of anyone else that I would have punted Hanlon years ago. So I'm not even giving that the of saying it. But no, just Doidge, I would say, is the only one I'm surprised he's still at the club that there was rumoured to maybe be leaving.
Jack?
I've got to agree with that. Doidge, I think for me, Campbell, now that he's been put back to his sort of more natural realm of the defence, I think Campbell's actually looked a bit better, to be honest. But I do think I was actually speaking to one of my colleagues at work. He was one of the group leaders as a Hibs fan, and he was saying that I agree with him that a loan spell in a championship club would maybe do Campbell a bit of good. Somebody like Inverness or someone like that sort of up the top half of the championship, and maybe do him a bit of good. So I think Campbell would be good, is maybe good as a backup option, or maybe a wee loan spell would do him well. But I definitely agree with Doidge. I think Doidge's Hibs days are numbered. It's when you've got Ewan's work permit through, when you've got Nisbet fit, Doidge isn't going to get in ahead of any of them, I don't think. So I think for me, Doidge, and obviously, like Charlie said, he doesn't suit Lee Johnson's style of football either. We need pace up front. I think you've seen that against Morton. We were toiling because we didn't have that pace up front. So you need that with Lee Johnson's style, with the pressing and the sort of football we're playing. You need that fast striker and just sort of nip in behind the back line. And Doidge was never that. He's a poacher, and I don't think Lee Johnson's football sort of. I mean, like Charlie said, he didn't mean any of those goals against Clyde. I mean, one of them it was off his. One of them was off his shoulder or something like that, and then it was off his stomach. And then, I think he was good for us at a point in time. He definitely suited Jack Ross's style. He sort of had a bit of a recovery under Maloney, but again, he wasn't that great. So I think for me, Doidge, his days are numbered. And to be honest, I think I could see him going back down south, or even Jack Ross maybe taking him at Dundee United.
Aye, maybe. I thought maybe Dundee United, but now that Fletcher's here, I didn't see him gone.
That's the point. He would be getting that team ahead of Fletcher.
I think maybe a spell at like Dundee or something as well for Doidge. I think a team that does play horrible football to watch, like that's Doidge. Aye, like back in the Jack Ross days when he was scoring, like when he scored goals, we played some bad football, like and it worked for him. So. No, I don't think he'll be here much longer. I'm going to put, if I was a betting man, I'd put money on him not being here by September.
Right, is that right?
I don't think he'll be in Johnson's plans going forward.
No.
Oh, fair enough. Right, so it sort of brings a close to the men's section that bit. I think we've sort of had a wee catch up and a wee round up of the men's. Moving on to the women's, obviously there's been a hell of a lot of transfers going on there. And they've started their pre-season as well, which has been really good. Jack, Mr. Hibs Women, you want to take us away on this one?
Yeah, so I think I'll address the pre-season results first, because I think, there's a lot to talk about there. And obviously the first pre-season, they've all been behind closed doors, unfortunately. Obviously there's reasons for that.
What are the reasons?
Well, you're putting me on the spot here. No, I'm kidding. So obviously the first thing is obviously Meadowbank. There was a sort of lot going on there because the council hadn't officially opened it yet. That Edinburgh City game, FC Edinburgh game against Arbroath. was a test event. Edinburgh Leisure hadn't officially
Right.
centre yet at that point. So obviously we've had to play at HTC, which because there's no stand or anything. There's rules around that, and also we've got a very, very thin squad, so they're being treated more like bounce games because obviously we've not had work permits through and everything like that. So I think, but apart from that, okay, behind closed doors, it would be nice to see the girls play, but I think that's the impressive thing is the results we've got, considering how many players we've not got yet. Obviously, the first one was behind closed doors at HTC against Aberdeen. It was 6-0. And I think Aberdeen were one of our direct competitors in the league last season. They played a full-strength team. And we had a couple of trialists and a very thin squad. We had Leah Tweedy, the ex-Hearts player, who's been training with us to keep herself fit. Was a trialist in that game, and she scored twice.
Who did you say that was?
Leah Tweedy.
Right, okay.
So we had Leah Tweedy. She's not going to sign for us. She's just playing with us right now, but training with us right now because she's wanting to keep herself fit while she's looking for a new club. But because she's been released by Hearts, but she scored twice. Then we put in a really good performance. Not seen in the highlights on recast. You know, it was very, very good to watch. And I think that's a good sign that if we're beating a team that was sort of in and around where we were in the league 6-0 when they're playing a full strength team and we've got a very thin squad out, I think that's a good sign. And then our most recent pre-season was against Boroughmuir Thistle, obviously a top half SWPL2 team. They were in the promotion playoffs last season and lost to Glasgow Women, so they narrowly missed out on promotion, Boroughmuir Thistle, and we tucked them away 8-0. You know, it was Nor Mustafa's first game and she scored 2 goals, which is good to see. So
is that not your pal's team? Ria's team? Her team?
No, Ria's at Spartans now.
Aye, but her old team, if you know.
No, she was on loan at Boroughmuir, aye. So
yeah, I can.
Calvin, you're getting better with the knowledge these days, son. But I think, you know, think about it like that. You know, that's a top half SWPL2 team, Boroughmuir Thistle. And the last time we played a team in that sort of similar area at SWPL2 was St Johnstone. We had a very slow start against them, and yes, we beat them 6-1, but it wasn't a convincing 6-1, if you see what I mean. So I think to be tucking away a side like that 8-0 is impressive. And I know it's pre-season, but I'm still very happy with that, considering, you know, there's a lot of players still on holiday. There's players waiting for work permits. You know, right now we're still waiting on Christina Freda and Elie Gianu, the 2 Cypriots, getting their work permits. So we're still waiting for Crystal Thomas. Leanna Hines she'd been playing in World Cup qualifiers with Trinidad and Tobago, so we're still waiting for her to come over. So considering we have a very thin squad, those are very, very good signs. And I think obviously the big news came out that we integrated fully into the club. We're the first team outside the Old Firm to do that, and we're now full-time professional, which is excellent. I think that is a step that I've been crying out for quite a little while. I think it's needed to happen for a long time, so it's good to see it happen eventually. And you can see that now. But now that we're training regularly, there's some very, very good signs heading into next season. You know, if we are beating teams like, if we're beating a team like Aberdeen 6-0 with hardly any players, and we had Joelle and 2 trialists on the bench, and that was it. That was it. You had a starting 11 and 3 on the bench. And those 2 trialists, we don't know who they are, and we don't know whether they're going to be signing for us or not. But I think that's very, very impressive, beating a team like Aberdeen 6-0. So it's very, very positive signs. From pre-season, we're playing an English team today, Durham. They don't want the score publicised, but hopefully we beat them. I think they play in the Women's National League, so English Women's 3rd tier. And then we've got a friendly against Sunderland as well, which I think will be a good test. They're a sort of well-established championship side so in England. So I think that'll be a good one. So the pre-season's been going along well. Also, we don't know a time frame for the League Cup or anything like that yet, because with the Women's Leagues being integrated into the SPFL, a lot of changes going on. So I think all in all, we're looking good, and that's just like the bare minimum. We've still got a lot of players to come in. And I think that sort of brings me on to my next point, which is the transfers. And I think I said this when we did our transfer special on the women's team, is it's all been very, very positive business. You look, we've picked out, I think, you know, all credit goes to Dean. You know, he's picked out areas that he needed to strengthen. Our recruitment teams went forward. They've looked at players, and we've signed some very, very good players. Like Nor Mustafa, she's just come in, got a work permit, and she's barely been in Scotland and scored 2 goals in her first game. So I think that's impressive. Nor's played for West Ham. She's come from Sweden, of course. Like, look at Sweden are in a Euro semi-final right now and are the second-ranked team in the world. So she's come from that system. She's come from that sort of football and culture that they have in Sweden. And Sweden's been huge for women's football for a good number of years now. So it's good to have a player coming from that. And obviously West Ham are a well-established side in the WSL and English Women's League. So it's good to see Norm Mustafa coming in. And I think we're lucky to get some of these players because you've got Benedicta Haaland, the goalkeeper. I think I'm not going to sing the song, Calvin. I've seen that little smug look on your face. I'm not going to do it. So
I can see you've been perfecting your enunciation of her name.
Yeah, so I think with Benedicta, I think the thing is, she hasn't played. It's been Ailey Tevitt, our American keeper, that obviously she was at Kilmarnock and Hearts. Well, she never played for Hearts because she got injured, but she used to be a Jambo, but she's all right now. No, I'm kidding.
I think if I read right that Haaland got on the second half the other night there. I might be wrong, but I think I read that.
She might have. Yeah, they didn't publicise like a second half lineup like they've been doing with the men's friendlies, but
the Hibs Twitter women's updates could be improved a wee bit. Like, it's a bit slow.
Yeah, I think that'll come though. I think the media team are getting investment as well.
Better, mate.
Because obviously I think Callum, Matthew, Jack, Stu, and they all do an amazing job, but they were doing it with very limited resources last season. So I think it'll be good to maybe see them get a bit more investment, see what, Adam, for example, at the men's team has access to, them get that. But I think, so obviously Ailey Tevitt's played games and she's looked good. I think Haaland will be her first choice, but she's, again, played in England with Bristol City, a big, well-established women's team in England. She's played with Hellas Verona in the women's Serie A, which is one of the sort of biggest growing women's leagues right now. And that's good. I think Poppy Lawson, the Man United under-21 captain, Man United have got a very good youth setup with women's football, and Poppy won several trophies as captain of Man United's youth teams. So I think it's good to have her in. And I think, to be honest, if I look at all the new signings, all of them are very exciting. But I think Poppy Lawson's going to be the big one for us. I think, she's a very good young player. And I think I'm going to put my neck on the line here and say this, and it is a statement I'm prepared to die by, that I think Poppy Lawson, in, I don't know, maybe 5-6 years' time, she has a good spell at Hibs. You could be seeing her starting for England at seniorly. I think she's a player with a big future. And I know you look at how well England are doing right now within the women's game. I think Poppy Lawson's a big part of that, and I think she could do it. And then obviously we've still got the players that we're waiting on work permits for, so the 2 Cypriots. Then obviously Crystal Thomas and Leanna Hines. I think they're all very good players. I think you look at Christina's Freder's scoring record. Okay, Cypriot football's not exactly the most exciting league in the world. It's maybe not the best, but I think you look at her scoring record. I think for one of our teams in Cyprus, she'd scored like 145 goals in like 90 games or something like that. So I think when you look at Christina Freda, a player that's got an eye for goal, which we've needed, I think having her and Ailey up front will be good. Then obviously you've got Eleni Giannou, who's played at Easter Road before. When Cyprus played Scotland at Easter Road, it was an 8-0 thumping for Cyprus. So hopefully she plays a bit better at Easter Road when she's in a Hibs shirt. But I think she's exciting. I'm sort of defence-minded midfielder, which we've needed. I think we've not had an out-and-out defensive-minded midfielder. I think Leah Eddy's had to be put into that role at times. Obviously, she's a centre-half. Then you've got the English lassie Eva, who I think she looks good. She's been impressive in pre-season as well. So I think all in all, the women's team are in a very good place, and it's good to see. I think Ron Gordon talked about his vision for the women's team, and it's good to see him finally put his money where his mouth is, to be honest. I think we need an investment in the women's team for a long time. You look at us last season we did quite well, but you noticed that we were just lacking that little extra bit to go that bit further. I think we've got that now. I still think we're maybe needing a few more bodies through the door just for depth, but that'll come. We've got a good, our under-19s team have obviously just sort of been disbanded because they're all too old to play at under-19 level now, but I think a few of those are good young players that deserve a chance. So I think definitely we're looking really, really good, and that's all because of that investment and getting integrated in the club. Of course, we got the sign of that good team from last season getting onto pro contracts. You've seen most of our good players got signed down or tied down on contracts, and then obviously we've had, like I said, a lot of backing and a lot of investment from the club. The women's team will get their own sponsorship deals. So yeah,
Right, the MB Media one's a good one.
Yeah, well, I think we might get that again, and we've got the match one.
That's right.
Of our strips on the
and the Dome
sleeve,
Pizzeria one as well, which is good. I was going to get your thoughts on just one transfer exit that obviously happened was Women's Player of the Year last season, as obviously went and signed for Rangers. That wasn't the one I seen coming to Click Kavanagh. What did you think of that?
So I think this is the thing I'm going to say. So I was actually going to come on to this, Calvin, which is because I'm actually glad you reminded me because I was going on a bit there. But as I usually do, I think the thing is Rangers have strengthened, and I'm a bit disappointed that we've let a good player go to a direct right. I understand if a player doesn't want to play at the club, fine. You know, if she didn't want to sign a contract, there's not much we can do to stop that. I think that's what happened with Amy Gallagher as well. But Amy Gallagher and Cav going to, obviously Amy Gallagher went to Celtic, Cav went to Rangers. I think that is still not very good at all from us. You know, and if the two of them didn't want to stay, fine, understand it. We should have been fighting nail and tooth to get those players tied down, because those were two of our best players last season. And I'm not taking away from any other the girls in the squad, because I think each player that we've kept has been fantastic. When you look at the players we've kept, Ailey, Nikki, Siobhan, you know, they're the sort of spine of a good Leah Eddy, they're the spine of a good team. So I think it's disappointing, but it's not as much of a blow as I think it would have been in the past. You know, that sort of last phase when we lost a lot of good players, you know, Kirsten Riley, Chelsea Cornett, Jamie Lee Napier. That's what sort of set us back a bit. This time, because we've replaced them well, you know, I think it's not going to be too much of a problem for us. So I think it's disappointing, but it's not as disappointing as it could have been, because I think we have strengthened in those areas well.
And I was going to say, Charlie, just to catch up with what you're saying there, Jack, just Charlie, what did you think of that one, mate, moving on?
The Cav one was, obviously it was disappointing to lose her, but I'm not overly worried, to be honest. I think, like Jack said, we're strengthened really well. Would have liked her to go down south, probably. I'm disappointed she's playing for Rangers, because it means I can't like her anymore until she leaves them. But no, I think, listen, she's earned it. She's earned the move. She's a very, very good player. And it wouldn't surprise me if her and Amy Gallagher now play for Scotland, because they're not at Hibs. But that's
exactly. Yeah, good point.
That's a tangent I'm not getting into, because this episode will end up being 3 hours long if we start going down that rabbit hole.
Exactly. Still got another week.
But no, I think just to sort of like the other thing I was going to say with Rangers as well is there was one I was very disappointed that we weren't in for, Dina Oshman, who Rangers signed from Turbina Potsdam. Turbina Potsdam are my German women's team. I think Dina's a very good young player. She didn't really get in the team at Turbina. That they did well in the Frauen Bundesliga, got to the Frauen Pokal final as well, and she was released. She's a free agent. I think central midfielder, very good young player. I'm a bit disappointed we didn't go in for her, but you know that's it. I think I'm just desperate for us to sign a German player, to be honest. But I think apart from that, the women's team are in a very, very good place. I think a lot better place than the men, to be honest. Like I said, I still think we need a few more bodies through the door. You know, there's a few players that are free agents that I'd be interested in. Kirsten Riley's just been released by Rangers, so I think we could be seeing a potential return for Kirsten Riley. Be nice to see that, because I think she's a very good player. But apart from that, I think the women are going to have a very successful season. They've been backed. So, and I think they'll repay that, because we've got a very good work ethic in that squad by the looks of it. So I could definitely see a cup, whether that's the League Cup or the Scottish Cup. I could definitely see a cup. And I could definitely see us be in there challenging for Champions League football as well. Definitely. I think we could end up with Old Firm. I'd like to see us be in there challenging for second. So I think Glasgow City will drop off now.
I think it may take another year.
It'll drop off.
I think it may take another year or two before we're at that level. And just first year going pro and things like that. But no, I think maybe third or fourth. But we'll come to that in the season review and all of that. So just thanks, a really good analysis in there, Jack, Mr. Encyclopedia. But just sort of to come on to the last sort of topic of what we're going to touch on today. I'm sure you still have had a bit of time to listen to our ongoing and sort of interview with the other Hibs podcast, including ourselves. Obviously, I was able to join the call just by chance. I know we were all busy that day, but I managed to squeeze it in. Now that you've had time to listen to it, maybe listen back a couple of times, what are some of the big takeaways that you found personally with that? I've got a few of my own that I'll maybe like to start with. I think one of the things that being in the call, one of the things I thought the questions were pretty fair that people asked them. I know we've got a lot of backlash online, a lot of folks saying that we let them off the hook big time and things like that. But to be fair, you need to bear in mind that there are time limitations. We only get about 40 minutes with them, and there's 5 or 6 Hibs podcasts involved, all trying to ask them questions. And then obviously when you ask the question, there's follow-up questions and lead questions that you can go into as well. So it's very difficult to try and manage your time. Same thing as well. One of the big things I actually think Ron is doing a good job. To be honest with you, I've seen a lot of people calling for Dempster and that, and of course I think Leanne done a brilliant job as well. But I just think that his head's in the right place, and I think personally that he's doing his job very well. I think he's trying to. He understands that. Well, this is where I like your opinion, because I'm not sure he does understand. He's very money cautious, and he's a businessman, and he knows how to make revenue. So, for example, yes, he is saying that the club is better run now than it's ever been. For example, there's better food in the kiosks. He was talking about the better dietary up at HTC. The players are eating better stuff, got a better diet and things like that, getting fitter. They've upgraded the gym and things like that up at HTC with all new equipment. Obviously, they brought the women's team on board and different things like that. But I understand all that, and I understand that that's his job. But what sort of average punters like us, for example, who go to their work 9 till 5 Monday to Friday and go to the football on the weekend for a bit of a release or a bit of an escape, is to see our team win. And when I was listening back to the previous time that the Hibs podcast sat down with Ron, it was on our podcast. When he was on our podcast and we interviewed him, I asked him, was there any advice that Tom Farmer and Rod Petrie gave you when you took over as CEO? The chief executive, and he said yes. The advice they gave him was, you got to win. If you win, people will come. And I think that sort of spoke, looking at season ticket sales. Great, having all this, but better dietary at HTC, and I'm not really bored about that. I mean, if you look at Hearts don't own their training centre. Rickert and they don't own that, and they've sold out of season ticket sales, and it's because they've got a winning team in the park. And I think that's one thing that Ron just didn't seem to get. I mean, if you've got a winning team, then people will come. So that was one thing that I had to be in my bonnet about. I don't know if you've had any opinions on that yourself, or was there anything else throughout that conversation that you managed to pick up on?
Yeah, I think I've got to agree with that, Calvin. I think the thing is, as much as I like, and I think I'm buying what Ron's selling. I understand, and I come at it from the very German view of 50+1 and everything like that. But I do get that these commercial partnerships and everything that's happening behind the scenes do help in the long term. And I'll be eternally thankful to Ron for he's the Hibs owner that's finally taken the step to make the women's team professional. Because I don't think Farmer or Petrie would have done that in a million years. It's not something they looked at. So I think even when Hibs women were getting Champions League and winning all these cups, they just didn't seem to bother. Ron Gordon stepped in and he said, the women's game's growing. We need to be, we can't be left behind. So I think that's good. But all these things like getting the commercial partnerships and everything like that, it doesn't put the ball in the back of the net. It's as simple as that. It doesn't put the ball in the back of the net. It doesn't get us 3 points on the board. And that's the thing, is the team on the pitch is what makes the club good. We've got these great commercial partnerships. Good, we're ever many much in the green with profit. Good, we've got better food in the kiosk, because I think honestly it's great stuff. I think I'm enjoying the new pies and the chips. I think you can tell by the belly on me. But it's not putting the ball in the back of the net, and it's not getting us 3 points on the table. And I think that's what the key thing is about any football club. Is no matter how well you're run or how poorly you're run, you need to be winning. I think that the other problem is from this whole Rocky debacle is I don't think we've got enough people in the right positions to be taking ownership. I think Ben Kinsell's doing a great job commercially,
Do you think so?
But from the football side of things, there's been some blunders. And obviously, I think Derek White was brought in to help with that. But I think the difference is and Derek White's come in, and I've not really heard much from him. He did a good job at Livy. He's sort of bringing in that sort of youth, and he's done well with a club like Livingston. But it's a big step up, a club like Livingston, a club like Hibs, both as a company and what the expectations are on the park as well. Obviously, Livy are a club that don't deal with much money. They're a very community-focused club. They rely a lot on local sponsorship and everything like that, and a sort of core group of sponsors. Hibs are dealing with a lot more, so I think, it's maybe we needed to a little bit more experience there, but I think Derek will do a great job. I'm hoping he does a good job.
It's cost us $5,000 already, apparently, for what I've heard.
Oh, geez, don't even get me started, Calvin. Honestly,
with that one. So,
but yeah, I think that's frustrating. But you look at what Hearts director of football come out and says, you know what? Why not? Why can't we win the league? Why can't we do this? And that's the thing. I think that's why Hearts are so well organised. They've got a director of football, and we need a proper out and out director of football that has that sort of remit, because it's worked well for Hearts. And I think that's the thing is, Hearts used to obviously be a joke in that, nobody took any responsibility. You had all those financial problems. You had mad, and they used to be a basket case. But when Budge came in, and now that the supporters have obviously bought the shares as well, things have started to be turned around there. And I think this is the issue: is we need more people in more positions of responsibility and experience so that we have that sort of thing. And I see Charlie's got his hand up like a good boy, so I'll let him come in now.
Let the laddie speak.
What was the question? Sorry,
I was talking
totally
about.
Had a mind blank there.
No, I was talking about how basically Ron Gordon, when he was talking about
Ron's interview. Sorry, I didn't like it personally. I think he was far too defensive. And he was very,
Do you think he was roasted enough, though? Do you think he was roasted enough?
Nah.
Right.
Well, yes and no. I think the questions were good, but I think you probably could have tore a strip off him a wee bit.
We probably could. I think we were already deserved, because you've obviously got to protect your relationship with the club as well.
Of course. And I totally get that. And I've seen people on Hibs.net and all the podcasts at tight, and Matty for Longbangers was saying, look, we're no journalists. We're fans at the end of the day. We want to respect the owner of the club and all that. And I get that. And I would have asked Ron more about why are we spending money on development squad rather than first squad? Like, the development squad's, we're going to have a class team in 5 years, but it's 5 years away. Like, and I think, I just think he's very defensive over his laddie, which is obviously fair. It's your son at the end of the day, but I'm not entirely convinced that Ian Gordon actually can scout out a good player. If you know what I mean.
Very quick to say it's not just Ian. It's not just Ian.
Aye, well, tell us who's on that. Tell us who's on that team then. Like, I would never ever look to Gambia for a player. Like, and Bojang's looked all right, but I would never ever look to Gambia for my, like, we need a new striker. Like, let's look. I know Africa's untapped and all that, but I just think that he's also very quick to remind us about how much the revenues went up, which I get. Like, if your revenue goes up, money comes into the club, we reinvest into the squad. But he's very defensive, and he's every right to be defensive. But for me, I just think sometimes I feel like Hibs are they sometimes keep stuff to themselves a wee bit. Like, Ron, I feel like Ron maybe isn't telling the whole truth in some of these aspects, which is fair. You didn't want anything leaking out, but in the same respect, I don't think he's actually telling the whole truth in some of these things.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much of it. Like, Jack, you were saying you were quite impressed with Ben Kinsell. Like, I'll be honest with you, I'm not really too sure what Kinsell's done since he came to the club, other than organise a friendly with Norwich.
I know he's been
contacts in that, but
Kinsell's been a big part in getting the women integrated as well, which is obviously good to see. And it was his idea to have the women's derby at Easter Road the first time, but other than that, like, it's obviously CEO, but
very quiet.
it would be good for maybe all the podcasts to get together and ask Ben, but what actually do you do on a daily basis? Like, I couldn't tell you what a CEO at a football club does.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that's the problem. Is the role's very vague to me and I think that's something. Obviously, I mentioned it a little ago. But I think Ben's been a big driver in that as well in the women's team, and I've seen a lot of this, and I'm not going to go into it because I'd have a rant that would go on for ages about people saying, "Oh, but my season ticket money's going in the women's team." And I thought, it's 2022. You might want to, leave the caveman attitude back in 1950, and also, it's no your season ticket money. Gink clubs just spend season ticket money. Of course, there's lots more revenue there, and I think the women's team deserve this investment. And I think it's been great that Ben's come in. And like I said, you wouldn't get a Rod Petrie, even Leanne Dempster. She was good. She brought it up a wee bit, but even Leanne didn't look at it. So I think it's good that Ben's went, okay, the women's foot was a big part of it. And think about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you now. I'm going to use an example here. Serviette from Switzerland in the Women's Champions League. They got to Women's Champions League group stages. That made them, I think, about 10 million euros or something like that, which is an astronomical amount of money, not just for women's football, but for men's football in a league like Scotland as well. Right? That's what's at play here. If we get Hibs women playing really, really well, and we get into the Champions League and do well in the Champions League, how professional the Women's Champions League is now. It's got a completely different tournament from the last time we were in it. We could be talking about a lot of money here, big amounts of money.
Do you think they're thinking of that though?
Was that Calvin?
Do you think they're thinking of that though, or do you think they're just bringing the women's team on side just to be like another, just because more or less it kind of has to be on side, and it probably should have been on side already? Do you think they're thinking, let's get money from the Women's Champions League?
I think obviously I'm not in their heads. I think naivety would say yes, but I think let's be honest, it's probably just a box ticking exercise. It's probably just like Rangers and Celtic done it, so we've got to do it as well. I'd like to think that wasn't it. I think when you speak to Chris Scott, the financial director, who's a very big player in all this, you can tell Chris's passion for the women's game. And obviously coming from America, he knows what a professional women's football structure looks like. So I'd like to say, and I'm not going to be a cynic here like I maybe would be with some of these things, that I'd like to say it is because the club have seen that the women's game is valuable and we can get a lot from it. And I think that's, to anybody that's sort of a bit iffy about this, I'd like to say that it will make the club money. Women's Champions League, winning cups, everything. Because I think this going professional is going to bring us up to the level that we used to be at. But now that level we used to be at... Yeah, go on, Calvin.
I was just going to say it will make the club money, but first and foremost, and this isn't degrading to anybody, a lot of supporters go primarily only tune in to the men's side of things, which is changing. I do agree, is changing, but I'm kind of thinking along the lines of, do you think sort of, because I don't think Ken Sale has that big a hand in the women's team, to be honest with you.
He did, honestly, from conversations myself and Charlie have had with him outside the stadium, and from what you've heard from Chris Gaunt and everything.
But he should also be focusing on the men's. He should be focusing on the men's, and this is why we're in a very poor situation, so to say, perhaps, with the men's squad currently.
I think the thing is, and again, I will say this now, and I think it's something that needs to be said, is women's teams don't need a lot of money to become self-sufficient. Arsenal women, Chelsea women, Wolfsburg, top of the European games. Do you think they get much money from the main club? No. They get a little bit of money and then they become self-sufficient. Wolfsburg Frauen have got their own sponsorship deals. Chelsea women have their own sponsorship deals. Arsenal women have their own sponsorship deals. They have their own staff. They have their own financial structures, everything like that. But it just takes that little nudge from the main sort of people on the main side of things to do it. So what I'll say to you there, Calvin, is I understand people's concerns, because at the end of the day, of course, we live in a world where obviously the male game does have a higher profile. I understand that. And I think the thing is, yes, I look at me, I want Hibs, the men's team, to be succeeding as much as the next Hibs fan. So what I'll say is, yes, we need to be putting investment into the men's team, but it's nowhere. The investment we made in the women's team is a lot of money by women's football standards, but in terms of men's football, it's a drop in the ocean. It's not even a drop in the ocean. you're talking.
Aye, but I think Hibs for a little while have been focusing a lot elsewhere, like development squad and things like that, rather than first team. Like a lot, I'm speaking for a lot of fans want to see, for example, the signing of perhaps a Shankland or something like that to get them excited to drive season ticket sales
Well,
and things
that's
like that. Like
the thing is that's
perhaps a
what.
Stephen Fletcher that's just joined Dundee United. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
something like that. Like that's where I think Hibs have been lacking. I know they've signed McGeady, but he was already. Would McGeady be here if he wasn't pals with Lee Johnson? Probably not.
No, I do agree with that, and I'd love to see us sign up. I think we do need a big player, and I think this goes back to what we're talking about earlier with the breaking the transfer record. Is I would like to see Hibs spending on big name players or experienced players, absolutely. So I do agree with that, and I think I understand. I'm the same. I think it's all very well. We're signing good young players, excellent. So we're going to be good. We're going to be good in a couple of years. It's good to invest in youth, but we need to be investing in what now. We need to be investing on now is the word I'm looking for here, and I think that's the problem. We need to be signing good players. Like I said, Shankland. I'm okay. Shankland.
He'd walk in my opinion, he'd walk into our team.
He'd walk in.
I think he'd walk into our team.
I think Shankland's okay. I mean, I'm not the biggest Shankland fan out there. He's an okay player. I think he binned it a bit going to Belgium. I think that sort of ruined things for him. If he went straight to another Scottish team, I think we might have been a bit better. Forrest, I think okay, he's a decent player. I think Fletcher's the one I would have liked to see come back. I think we need that sort of Sauzé player. We need that sort of Sauzé figure. Is McGeady going to be that?
Yes.
Maybe not.
Yes.
You don't know yet. I think the early signs haven't been great. I think McGeady's. I think he'll be better in the big games. Put it like that. He's going to be better against your Hearts, your Rangers, your Celtics. I think that's what it's going to suit McGeady. But you need your sort of Sauzés or Fletcher or someone like that. We need a big player, big experienced player, big game player with a good CV. And I think Fletcher's. I was disappointed when we didn't get Fletcher because he's done it before at Hibs. He's won a trophy. He's lifted a cup at Hibs.
And Charlie, what are you going to say, mate?
I was just going to say that I think on the whole, I was just going to say that it's good to have these conversations we're on. We had one with Lee when he just came in. I think things are moving in the right direction between club and fans. Obviously, we are in a privileged position being fan media that we get more than your regular punter. But I think it's obviously nice to get to chat to Ron, and obviously there's probably one in the pipeline for after the summer is over as well. I think I read earlier in the week that there might be one for us again soon. So, I just wanted to say to the club, thanks for these opportunities and getting to chat to Ron.
Yeah.
Thank you.
One thing I would just wrap up, just to bring it to a close and sort of wrap this episode up because we're staying at an hour. Was do you feel confident in Ron being in charge and the way things are going?
Yeah.
I'm buying what he's selling.
Yeah,
right.
I think he'll turn us good in time. I think it's coming. It's going that way.
Good stuff. Well, I'm just looking at time wise here and thinking about wrapping up. Unless anyone has anything else to add. No. Right. Well, we'll be back sometime later in the week, perhaps with a men's season preview and also perhaps a women's season preview as well. And we'll get them punted out. And we're still working on being joined by a couple of guests and things like that as well that we've got in the pipeline, which we'll hopefully try and bring to you soon. But until next time, on the Hibs.